Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidgaram. So today we invoke Puja Gurudev and Bhagavan and Swami Vidyaranyaji as we start our new text. And our new text will be Panchadashi. So we seek their grace and blessings to help us comprehend this fully. It's a very, very beautiful series. Before we actually go into the text proper, just a little bit about Swami Vidyaranyaji. If you have Swami Tejomayanandaji's book, he writes a little bit about his life. And Swami Vidyaranyaji, he comes in a very, very noble family, and he has two brothers. One was called Sayana, and the other one was called Bhoganatha. And in fact, Swami Vidyaranya and his brother Sayana, together, they wrote commentaries on the Vedas. So you can just imagine. And his brother Bhoganatha, who although was younger than him, became his guru. And that he was known as Bharati Tirtha. So he comes from a very noble lineage. And I'll just read this verse, which Guruji has included in his commentary, so you can see where he comes from. Srimati Janani Yasya Sukritir Mayana Pita. Srimati Janani Yasya Sukritir Mayana Pita. Shayano Bhoganatascha Mano Buddhi Sahodarau Yasya Bodhayanam Sutram Shakhayasya Chayajushi Bharadvajam Kulam Yasya Sarvagnya Sahi Madhavaha. So Srimati Janani Yasya says that his mother was Srimati and his father was called Mayana. And of course, as I said, his brothers were Sayana and Bhoganatha. And his sutram is Bodhayana, and he comes from the Shaka of Yajurveda. And his kula, or his lineage, is Bharadvaja. So he comes from a very noble background, and he's called Sarvagnya. And the reason that he's called Sarvagnya is he studied a lot of scriptures. And, it's not like he was a sannyasi to the core, in the sense that he didn't live out in an ashram on his own. He actually he became a prime minister. So at one point in time, we had, when India was being invaded, right? So we had this Harihara and Bukka, the brothers, and they wanted to build some resistance so that India could protect herself. And so they found Vidyaranya Swami. His name at that time was Madhava. And they found him. And so what he used to do was he used to give discourses. And secretly, people would come to the discourses and train with Harihara and Bukka so that they could, build an entire army so that India, Bharat Mata, could protect herself. So later, of course, when they succeeded,
Madhava, he became the prime minister. At the age of 75, he was granted sannyasa by Swami Shankarananda. And Swami Shankarananda is also very, very well known. He wrote the Atma Purana, and he wrote this beautiful commentary on the Bhagavad Gita called Shankaranandi. And he, and Swami Vidyaranya, along with his Guru Bharati Tirtha, they became the Shankaracharyas in Sringeri Mutt. So the Shankaracharya is a position that you hold, the Sringeri Mutt. So he held that position. So, you can see that from his life, his family was so noble. That he had an active life. He was prime minister. He studied a lot of scriptures. His gurus were very, very noble also. And he wrote quite a few texts. He wrote this text called Jivan Mukti Viveka. He also wrote a commentary on the Brahma Sutras. He also wrote notes on the Upanishads. And his last text is Panchadashi. This was his last text. So you can just imagine the wealth of knowledge. I mean, his name itself says it, Vidyaranya. It's like a forest of knowledge. Is the one who writes this text. Now, what's so special about this text is that many people in Vedanta study it because it gives such clarity on different topics. Our own Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayanandaji studied this text under Swami Tapovan Maharaj. So as soon as I heard that, I said, wow, we have to study it. It's really, really nice. It's called Panchadashi because it's got 15 texts. So you can see there are 15 different texts actually, but they're part of one whole bundle. And these texts are different from a regular Shastra. A regular Shastra, like when we see the Gita or the Upanishads, they comprehensively cover 6 topics. And the 6 topics are Jiva, the individual, Jagat, the world, Ishvara, God, Bandha, bondage, Moksha, liberation, and Sadhana, the practice, spiritual practice. So when we look at Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, they're a whole Shastra, very, very comprehensive. This text is what we call Prakarana Grantha. It's a topical text. So each chapter focuses on a certain topic. And it's very nicely laid out in that every 5 chapters is a bundle. So for example, chapters 1 to 5, they all end with Viveka. And they all focus on Sat. Of course, Chit and Ananda will also be there because you can't separate them. But they all end with the word Viveka. Then you have chapters 6 to 10. They all end with the word Deepa, signifying Chit. And you have chapters 11 to 15, and they all end with Ananda. So when one really goes through Panchadashi, it's like you go through the whole entire Sat Chit Ananda. And this is being a topical text or Prakarana Grantha. Prakarana Granthas are also like Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha. But this is a little bit more advanced because it's a little bit more detailed. So this text presupposes that we've had some background of Vedanta so that we can easily understand the concepts here. And what's really nice is that all of us have studied Viveka Chudamani, or most of us have studied Viveka Chudamani, and this will actually summarize Viveka Chudamani. The first chapter will actually summarize Viveka Chudamani. So it's a nice segue. And as I mentioned to some of you, some were asking, are we going to take all 15 chapters? Are we going to study all 15 chapters? Well, we'll see whatever the Lord wills. But Swamiji has advised that we would do 1 chapter and then 1 Upanishad. And then another chapter and then another Upanishad, since we haven't gone to Upanishads yet. But so we will follow that method. We'll do 1 chapter Upanishad. Some chapters are longer than others. So this particular chapter that we're studying is not as long as Viveka Chudamani, so don't worry. It's 65 verses, but other chapters are like nearly 300 verses. Chapters 6 and 7 particularly are huge. And some chapters are very small, like chapter 5 is very small. So it depends on what's in the chapter, but their topics are very, very interesting. So now we have a background of, Vidyaranya Swami. And here I'll just read, the name of his gurus that Swami Tejomayanandaji has written. He studied under 3 gurus. Bharati Tirtha, his youngest brother, Vidya Tirtha, and Shrikanta. So now some also say that some of this work was written by Vidyaranya Swami and some by Bharati Tirtha. So like the first few chapters is by Swami Vidyaranya and the next is by Bharati Tirtha. And what happens is the work is so closely, they're so close that you can't tell who's who. So it's a mystery to us. But most people say it's or attribute Panchadashi, the whole thing, to Vidyaranya Swami. But please understand, when we bow down to Vidyaranya Swamiji, it's also to his guru, and to his guru, and to that whole lineage. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and enter into the text. So we know now what this text is about. This text is called Tattva Viveka. Viveka, in Viveka Chudamani, we saw that Viveka meant discrimination. Chudamani meant crest jewel of discrimination. And so we were studying the highest form of Viveka, or discrimination, which is Atma, Anatma, Viveka. Here, Viveka means a different word. Viveka means inquiry. Inquiry into tattva. Tattva means the nature of truth. Tattva, tattva means ness, that-ness. That-ness is specifically in tattvamasi, you see that is essentially sat, that truth or reality. So whenever we see, words in our texts, it always ties into our Upanishads. So that ties in with tattvamasi. Tattvamasi, tattvamasi is sat. So that's how we know that tat means sat, which is truth or reality. And so when you add the twa, it's like thatness or truthness. So the nature of truth. So that is what we're studying today. Now with every text, whenever we start, we always do a Mangala Charana. Mangala Charana means an invocation. Acharana means we're performing Mangala, auspiciousness. But what is auspicious? An invocation. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with that, and then I'll explain it and we'll move forward. So I'll chant and then you can repeat after me. This is the first verse of the text. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane Savila Samaha Moha Graha Grasaika Karmani Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmani Savila Samaha Moha Graha Grasaika Karmani. So this is something so beautiful about our tradition. He's writing this text, and for somebody who's established in reality, established in truth, they don't have to write all of this stuff. They can just close their eyes and invoke, and they're done. They don't have to actually write. But why do they do this? Is because a guru doesn't only have to do, but a guru has to show. There are certain things that a guru does inside without telling. But there are certain things that a guru has to do and also show, because that guru parampara has to be kept. And the shishyas, or the students, have to learn. So all the time you will see, in whatever way or form, even it could be the first word of something, that would be the invocation. So here, even if he can just close his eyes and pray, he still writes. He still writes because he wants to tell all of us students, whenever you start anything, always seek blessings. Always seek grace. And this is so important in our tradition. You know, sometimes we just come and out of a rush from somewhere, and we just come and sit, and it takes time to really tune in to the teacher. It takes time to tune in to the text. So this Mangala Charana, it is an auspicious invocation to help tune our minds to seek grace and blessings from the Guru and Bhagavan. And it's also a demonstration of the teacher to the students that this is what should be done. And he starts with the word Namaha. Namaha. And Gurudev used to say, Namaha is na mama, means not mine. So this is telling us what the student must be like. We come into a satsang, into a sacred space, with so many likes and dislikes and so many notions in our minds. But in here, he says, na mama, like let me let go of everything that's mine. Whatever notions I have, whatever likes and dislikes, whatever thing is like coloring my knowledge, let me let go of that. And let only you shine. So na mama, not me. Shankarananda Guru Padam Pujan Mane. That's one word. And that literally means Ambujanman, the one that's born out of water, which is lotus. Pada, the feet of the Guru. So I prostrate to the lotus feet of the Guru, who is Sri Shankarananda. As I said, his Guru's name was Sri Shankarananda, the one who gave him sannyas. Why do I prostrate to this teacher? What does this teacher do? Savilasa Maha Moha Graha Grasek Karamane. That's also one word. So I'm just sharing the short meanings, and then we'll go through it, okay? So the Guru apparently has one karma, one action, one thing to do, eka karma. What is that? Grasa. The Guru's one job is to swallow. Swallow what? Graha, the crocodile. The crocodile of what? Moha, delusion. And what kind of delusion? Maha moha, great big delusion. And is it just this delusion? No, savilasa, with its effects. So, prostrations to the feet, lotus feet of Sri Shankarananda, whose sole job is to destroy the crocodile of terrible delusion, ignorance of the self, along with its effects. So when you read Sanskrit, these compounds, you have to go from the back to the front. Then we'll really get it. So now we'll just go word by word and just reflect on this a little bit. So as I said, he says, Namaha. So Namaha, not me. Let me drop every preconceived notion, every like and dislike, everything that's bogging my mind. Let me drop it. Not only all of that, but let me drop any distractions, any other thing that I'm thinking about, which I shouldn't be, because this is a sacred space of learning. It's not just a casual sight. So Namama, let me just drop everything that's me, and let me just be with you. Let you flow. And I read this one very, very beautiful story, which I really like. it said, what is the role of a guru? Somebody asked it, particularly, this is Anandamayi Ma. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's a very wonderful saint of our times, Anandamayi Ma. And someone asked her, what is the role of a guru? And so she tells this story. She says, one time there was a king, and the king had this huge palace, and there were 2 walls in the palace. And the king hired 2 painters and said, both of you paint on opposite walls, but I'm going to put a divider so you don't see what each other is painting. And let's see what happens. Because, kings used to commission people to paint. So anyway, we hired 2 people and they started painting, and they couldn't see each other's work. So finally, the time finished, time got over, and the king said, okay, let me see the painting. So on this side, on one side, the king saw the painting, and it was so beautiful. It was like a fresco. The whole wall was with such a beautiful illustration. And the king said, this is really amazing. Now, I can't imagine what will be on the other side. And the other painter also looked very calm, And so he said, I can't imagine what will be on the other side. And so the king then said, let's see. And when they let go of the divider, when they opened the divider, there was nothing on the other side. There was nothing on the other side, but the wall was very waxed. It was so waxed, it was so clean, it was so pristine and shiny that it was able to reflect that beautiful painting on the other side. And it made that painting on this side shine even more brightly. And so Anandamayi Ma said, that's the work of the Guru and the Shishya. The work of the Guru is to paint the most beautiful picture of the self. And the work of the student is not to paint, not to paint. The work of the student is to clean the mind, clean the self, so that the picture of the Guru shines. Because the Guru is painting according to Shastra. When our mind is completely empty, then we can really reflect that painting of the Guru. That's our work. Our work is to clean, cleanse, purify. Then the knowledge will automatically shine. That is called Namah. So that story makes everything clear. So at any point in your life when you're thinking, oh my gosh, what should my picture be? How should my picture be? Our role is never to make pictures, never to draw plans and make visions. Our role is to cleanse, to purify, to think, to reflect. And the painting will come. So Namaha, then this Sri Shankarananda Guru Padam Bhujanmane. So salutations, this lotus feet of the Guru. Now, what about the feet of the Guru? Why do we always bow down to the feet of the Guru? Because we know that the feet is the ideal that the Guru stands for. That's the ideal that they live by. It's not a physical foot that we're bowing down to. It's that actual ideal. That here is a being that actually speaks this, but also lives this. That's called the Guru. Shrotriya and Brahmanishta. This is what we saw in Vivekachudamani. So he says, that's my Guru. And the feet are like lotus feet. And of course, we've seen in so many places, the lotus is one that is born in mud, but never gets dirty, never gets affected by it. That Guru has to live in this world. Our Guru cannot be in some cave in the Himalayas, because then we would not have access to that Guru. The Guru, out of their compassion, they come and to share with us, to teach us, and therefore, they're even living in this world, being part of this world, they're still untouched by it. And the thing about the lotus is, So many things are under the lotus in the pond. There's like frogs, there's fish, there's so many things in the pond, but they don't know the glory of the lotus. But some bee from somewhere far away comes looking for the lotus, goes around and around the lotus and wants to just taste the nectar of the lotus. Like that, only that pure mind can see that glory of the Guru. And not everybody can see it. This Namaha also means that sense of maturity, to be able to see that, yes, this is a Guru and this is somebody that I can really learn from. This is how Vidyaranyaji felt for Swami Shankaranandaji. This is how we're feeling also for Vidyaranyaji, because he's so wonderful when you see how he writes. So Shankarananda, his guru, and Shankara can also mean Bhagavan Shiva, right? Shankara, we know, Shankaroti di Shankara, that which bestows joy on all. To give joy to one person is very easy, but to give joy to all and to have the capacity to do it, very hard. That only Shankara can do. So in this way, he bows down to Guru, he bows down to Bhagavan. And he says, this is what the Guru does. Eka karma. This is the one thing the Guru will do. The Guru will grasa, will swallow crocodiles. So the Guru is a crocodile eater. Because ajnana or ignorance is like a big crocodile. It can really grab us. We know in the stories, the Puranas, like Gajendra Moksha, when a crocodile grabs you, either you go or the crocodile goes. There's just no way. It's a very, very tough grasp. So this Guru is a crocodile eater and swallows this crocodile of ignorance, great ignorance. But not only ignorance, this moha here is ignorance, not only big ignorance, but also all of the things ignorance comes with. Ignorance of our true nature, it has the effect of two things that we always come back to, even in Viveka Chudamani. Anatmani Atma Buddhi, taking the not self to be the self. We take the body, mind, intellect, ego to be the self. Jagati Satyatma Buddhi, we take the world to be real. These are the effects of ignorance. And because of this, we really, really suffer. We suffer and suffer quite a bit. And then we come back to suffer again and again and again. So this vilasa means this whole expansion, all of these effects. The Guru also swallows that. So here we bow down to that Guru. So very nice how he writes. Bow down to the lotus feet of the Guru, who's a crocodile eater. So like how we did in Viveka Chudamani, every class, when after our opening prayers, we will chant this before we start as our Mangalachara. Now we go to the next verse. Now in this next verse, he's going to tell us the Anubandha Chatushtaya. He's going to tell us Chatushtaya means these fourfold Anubandha, factors that tie us to this text. Why would anyone want to study Panchadashi? So this is what he will tell us in verse 2. Tat padam buruhadvandva seva nirmala chetasam sukha bodhaya tattvasya vivekoyam vidhiyate. Tat padam buruhadvandva seva nirmala chetasam sukha bodhaya tattvasya vivekoyam vidhiyate. So we'll see the meaning of each word and we'll reflect on it. So here he says that means of that guru, padam buruha dvandva. So dvandva means the pair. Amburuha. Ambu means water. Ruha means grown from water. So that pair which is grown from water, which is pada, which is the feet of the guru. Nirmala chetasam. Nirmala chetasam. Chetasa means minds. Nirmala means pure minds. So what he's saying here is, of those minds, again, you have to take it from the back, of those minds who become purified by the seva to the lotus feet of the guru. So, it's the beauty of Sanskrit. If you study it, you'll have a lot of fun with it. So to those people, what ayam in the second line, ayam vidhiyate, this is being conducted. So this tattva viveka, this inquiry is being conducted to those or for those people whose minds are purified by the seva to the lotus feet of the guru. So ayam viveka, this inquiry of what? Tattva, of truth, is conducted. Vidhiyate is conducted. Why is it conducted? Sukha bodhaya. It is conducted for easy comprehension. So as we said, Swami Vidyaranya's beauty is that he really goes through everything. I mean, if you see the way he writes, he really, really goes through everything and it really makes you think. So how it will go is, ayam vivekaha tattvasya vidhiyate. Tatpadam buruhadvandva seva nirmala chetasam sukhabodhaya. So now, who is the student? So this, when we say anubandha chatushtaya, this fourfold factor of engaging anyone into any text, what are these factors? One is the adhikari or student. The second is the vishaya or subject matter. The third is prayojana or the goal. And the fourth is sambandha or the relation. So first in this verse, who is the student? The student is one whose mind has been purified. That's the student. And how does the mind get purified? By the seva to the guru. So, when we hear this word seva to the guru, there's many things that people understand by it. But this is made very, very clear in the Bhagavad Gita. There's this verse, tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. It means that the way a student serves the guru is in three methods. One physically, one mentally, one intellectually. Sevaya, physical. First we'll go to the physical, then the mental, then the intellectual, then we will see exactly what is the best service to the guru. So physical is whatever needs, whatever we can help with for the guru, that in that way to serve the guru. Sometimes the best service is also leaving the guru alone. Please don't touch, Sometimes that could also be the seva. So we have to see who or where and what condition. But sometimes whatever is required, whatever we can help with, that is seva. Or whatever, for Gurudev, what we can do is whatever Gurudev's projects are, whatever his vision is, to physically serve that. Because that's serving him in whatever capacity we can. Mentally is that humility, So here we say pranipatena, literally means to bow down. So mentally, out of humility, to just surrender oneself to the guru and say, I am ready. And pariprashnena means for the intellect to question, to ask, to think. That's also a great seva. So many times we go into so many classes, but we don't reflect before that. We don't think before that. We go and we're lost. Or something that was said and we didn't understand, we didn't go back to really think about it deeply. So that's a great seva to the Guru. To think is a wonderful seva, because then the Guru's words can really come in. They can really seep in. And so this is called seva. But of course, the ultimate seva is to live what the Guru has taught. That's the ultimate seva. So don't think of seva as just, helping here or there. It's a very big, wide concept, and we can do it in so many ways. And as I said, the biggest way is to live that teaching, practice it. So to those people, this inquiry into truth, into tattva, so which brings us to the next part. The subject matter of this book is very clear. It's the inquiry into truth, the nature of truth. So if at any point you're wondering, what is this text about? That's what it's about, the inquiry into the nature of truth. Why are we doing it? Prayojana Sukhabodhaya, for easy comprehension. Because as I said, Swami Vidyaranyaji, the way he writes it, makes it very easy for us to understand. And what is the relationship, or we call the sambandha, is that this text will reveal that subject matter. So this can be seen in the word vidhiyate. Vidhiyate means in this very text, it will give you that subject matter. Therefore, there's a connection with the text and the subject matter. Therefore, if you're connected to these four factors, then go ahead and study the text. And if you're not, then go away. That's what Vidyaranyaji Swami is telling us. So verse 1 is the Mangala Charana, or the invocation. Verse 2 is the Anubandha Chatushtaya. Now today we'll just touch upon verse 3. Now he goes right into the topic, okay? Goes right into the topic, and this topic will go from verse 3 to 7. What is the topic from verse 3 to 7? Verse 3 to 7, the topic is Atma is of the nature of Sat and Chit. So this topic will first come. So let us look at verse number 3. Shabdasparshadayo vedyaha Vaichitrya jagare prithaka Tato vibhakta tat samvita Ekarupyana bhidyate. Shabdasparshadayo vedyaha Vaichitrya jagare prithak Tato vibhakta tat samvita Aikarupyana bhidyate. Okay, so what is he saying here? Shabdasparshadayaha, which means the sense objects such as sound, shabda, touch, sparsha, etc. Vedyaha, they are known. And how are they known? Vaichitriyat, due to their peculiarities. And we'll see their peculiarities in a moment. And where are they known? Jagare, in the waking state, they are known due to their peculiarities. And how are they known? Pritak, they are known to be different. Pritak. But tataha, from them, vibhakta, different from them, is tat samvit, is that consciousness. And what about that consciousness? Ekarupyat, because it is just one homogeneous mass, na bidhyate, it does not differ. Okay, so here it says, in the waking state, the sense objects such as sound, touch, and so on, due to their peculiarities, are known to be different from each other. But the consciousness of these objects, which is different from them, does not differ due to its homogeneity, being of one nature. So first, let's just think a little bit about the waking state. Jagare, in the waking state. What happens in the waking state? How is the waking state defined? The waking state is defined as indriyahi arthopalabdhi. What does that mean? It means that experience, upalabdhi, of objects by the sense organs. This happens in waking state. This is the uniqueness of waking state. It's a state, but what's the uniqueness? It's the experience of sense objects with my sense organs. Because in dream, it's different, isn't it? We're experiencing sense objects, but not with our sense organs. And in deep sleep, we're not experiencing sense objects with our sense organs. So this is the uniqueness of waking state. What happens in waking state? There is sound, there is touch, there's taste, there's form, there's color, there's smell. There's all of these components in the waking state. So what we're experiencing is not the object per se, but either it's the sound we're experiencing, the sight, the smell, the taste, the touch. That's really what we're experiencing. And what he says here is they are peculiar. Why are they peculiar? Because each one can only operate in their own field. And we have seen this also in the Vivekachudamani, right? The eyes can only see form. It cannot hear. The ears can only hear sound. It cannot touch. The tongue can only taste. It cannot smell. So each one has their own field of experience. This is what happens. And so therefore, pritak, they are different from each other. Not only that, but what happens is there's different sounds, there's different tastes, there's different sights, there's different smells. So in this waking state, there's all of these differences. There's different objects known by my sense organs, and my sense organs know them peculiarly, peculiarly. Like the eyes will only know form, ears will only know sound, etc. But something is different from them. How is it that I get this comprehension of sight, sound, touch, taste all at the same time? Right? If they have their own fields of operation, how is it that I'm able to get that whole comprehension at the same time? So different from all of these objects, different from all of the sense organs, there is something there, vibhakta. There's something that's different. And what that is called samvit. Samvit is in feminine. So that's why you see vibhakta. And you'll see, whenever there's a description, it will be in feminine, in strilinga. So different from that is samvit. And this samvit, this pure awareness, is one. It's one. It's not two or three. It's just one. So in the midst of all these changing objects, right now I'm in front of a computer. Then after this, I'll be in front of a table. Then after this, I'll be in front of another book. In the midst of all of these changing objects, there is only that one consciousness, that one samvit. And that doesn't change. This is what this is saying. This is what happens in the waking state. So three things are happening here. We look very, very carefully. What's happening is in the waking state, there's a comprehension of different objects. We know that. Different objects, and we comprehend it to different organs. Number two, there is a difference between the object and the subject. All of this is known, but there's something that's the knower. So there's a difference between the objects and the subject. Number three, what is this subject? Is it many? Does everybody have one subject? No, it is just one. It is just ekarupa. Enna vidhyate. It's not broken, it's just one. So right here, in this very verse, he gives us the whole Advaitic principle. He says that everything is actually one, because the comprehension of any object, of anything, is dependent on that consciousness. So if we look deeper at this verse, he tells us that everything is just one. And that is your nature. That's samvid. So if we look at it again, the point number one, different objects are there. Point number two, there's a difference between the subject and the object. Point number three, that subject is always there. It doesn't change even if all of the things change. Point number four, that changeless is you. Okay? Now, in the next verse, in the next few verses, what he'll do is he'll go on now and establish that this samvit in waking is the exact samvit in dream, is the exact samvit in deep sleep. And then he'll go on to establish that that is all throughout one's life. So this is going to be the thought flow. I think today we will stop here. We'll see if there are any questions, and then we will sit quietly for a few moments to just reflect on this. Okay, so I'll pause for a moment. Anybody has any questions?